Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Radha.
Chapters offering benediction. We just heard yesterday that if one hears this description, qualified, however, in a devotional service attitude, the Lord, who is within everyone's heart, is very pleased. So now we'll hear further what verse 49 has to reveal to us. Tasmin Rasane Sakala Ashisham Prabhu Kim Durlabam Tabi Alam Lava Atmabi Ananya Tristya Vajatam Guha Asaya Swayam Vidate Swagatim Param Tasmin Pasane Sakala
प्रसन्ने सकलाशिषा प्रभो किं दुर्लभं ताभिरलङ्घवात्मभिः अनन्यदृष्ट्या भजतां गुहाशयः
Ram Tasmin Prasane Sakali Shisham Prabho Kim Durlabam Tabir Alam Lavatmabi Ananya Dristya Bhajatam Guhasaya Svayam Vidate Svagatim Paraparam. You should not. You should keep the meter as the. That's a giant weight, the marge. Ladies. Tasmin, unto him, prasane, being pleased, sakala ashisham, of all benediction, Prabhu, unto the Lord, Kim, what is that? Durlabam, very difficult to obtain. Tabi, with them. Alam, away. Lava atmabi, with insignificant gains. Ananya, dristya, by nothing but devotional service. Bhajatam, of those who are engaged in devotional service. Guha asaya, residing within the heart. Svayam, personally. Vidate, executes. Svagatim, in his own abode. Para, the supreme. Param, transcendental. Could we make this louder so I don't have to have this so close to my mouth? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, good. Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. Now it's too loud. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord Himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10, the Lord gives intelligence to the pure devotees so that they may be elevated to the highest perfectional stage. It is confirmed herein that a pure devotee who constantly engages in the loving service of the Lord is awarded all knowledge necessary to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For such a devotee, there is nothing valuable to be achieved but the Lord's service. If one serves faithfully, there is no possibility of frustration because the Lord Himself takes charge of the devotee's advancement. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart, and He knows the devotee's motive and arranges everything achievable. In other words, the pseudo-devotee who is anxious to achieve material gains cannot attain the highest perfectional stage because the Lord is in knowledge of his motive. One merely has to become sincere in his purpose, then the Lord is there to help in every way. Could we try to shift it a little bit more this way, the ladies more this way, because you're all over here and yeah. Thank you. Very nice. One merely has to become sincere in his purpose, and the Lord is there to help in every way. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Dena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatanvitam Dham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambo Jo Radha Madana Mohano Dibyad Bindaranya Kalpajumada Srimad Ratnagara Sringasanasto Srimad Radha Shrilagovinda Devo Restalabi Savyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Bamsi Bhatta Tatasti Taha Karshan Venu Svanar Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In a temple of jewels underneath the desired trees of Vrindavan, seated upon an effulgent throne, the divine couple, Shri Shri Radha Govinda, are served by their most confidential associates. We beg to offer our respectful obeisances unto them. So, nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord Himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. This is a very nice verse because it hits home or targets the very core of what Krishna consciousness is all about. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. And how does that happen? When the Lord is pleased with you. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord Himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. I'm going to quote this verse now from Bhagavad Gita. If you become conscious of me, you will cross over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. But if you act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So I'm going to make a guess that what comes to my mind here, if that's in the purport, anyway, this just a little clerical research. One cannot understand the great freedom afforded that, by doing this, that Krishna will, the foolish can't understand the great freedom from anxiety that the Lord will, for the devotee, he is not struggling in material existence. He's not under the laws of karma. Or just, what does that purport say? What is the essence of that purport? And Prabhupada, in the beginning of today's purport, he directs us to what is considered one of the four most important verses or seed verses of Bhagavad Gita, 10:10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upiyanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to rendering pure devotional service, I situated within the heart, give them all intelligence by which they can come to me. There are many examples throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam and all devotional literatures describing the benediction awarded to pure devotees. It's mentioned here, Svayam, personally. The Lord takes personal charge of the devotee's advancement. And it's described here, hearing of the devotee's achievement. That in and of itself is very supreme benedictory devotional service, hearing about the activities of pure devotees is so great that it counteracts all the ill effects of this Kali Yuga. And I can't remember exactly, but even along the way, in one series of Falshruti verses at the conclusion of one description in the Srimad Bhagavatam, if one wants to be famous, simply by hearing this narration, one will become famous. All that one desires in this material world is given, and at the end one will come back. Now, of course, the pure devotee doesn't want to delay the process, let me enjoy the material world, and I will get the supreme goal at the end. We should not at all think like that. This is exemplified by the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was approaching the Lord as a 5-year-old boy with great Kshatriya-like determination, with the motivation in the beginning of his performing austerity and penance, tapasya, to get the Lord's audience, to achieve revenge against his stepmother, and inadvertently, mainly his stepmother, but inadvertently his stepbrother also became implicated in his stepmother's offense to Dhruva Maharaj. The story briefly is that he wanted to he was sitting on the lap of his father, the king, King Uttanapad, and his mother, his stepmother, chastised him, saying that you will not, taking this as a symbolic, like a 5-year-old boy getting on the lap of his father, who happened to be the king, and he's sitting on the throne. If you want to sit on the throne, there's no way that you can do it unless you give up your body and then you take birth from my womb. In other words, she had her own natural son by the king, and it was destined that he would become the heir to the throne. Dhruva Maharaj was so upset with this that he wanted to seek out the Lord's audience. He wanted the benediction that he would get a kingdom not only greater than his father, but greater than his grandfather, who happened to be Lord Brahma. So the Lord was very pleased with his devotional service, albeit mixed with a mundane motivation. But the Lord blessed him, and everything that he wanted was granted. He would be given the planet, the pole star, which is the greatest planet within this universe. Actually, it's outside of the universe. It's an eternal planet. And he would get revenge against his stepmother and his stepbrother, and he would become the heir to his father's throne. Always, and at the end of receiving all that, Dhruva Maharaj was not very satisfied. He was in anxiety in his heart, and he lamented that I approached the Lord who can award, just like if Prabhupada gives the example that if we approach a very, very rich man and we ask him to give us $10 so we can get home on the subway and eat some sandwich or something, that's all you're asking for? Or there's another story where one old lady, she's carrying a big bundle of sticks. You'll see even today in India, people gather up sticks and little pieces of wood, firewood, and they're carrying this big burden. So I forget how the story goes. The Lord appeared as he was, as Lord Vishnu, and or maybe in a disguise, and the bundle fell down, and she's praying to the Lord, oh Bhagavan, please help me. Yes, what do you want? I want this bundle to be put back on my back. All right, that's all you want. Or the boatman who has to pull the boat, at low tide or in the dry season across the riverbed, which has a lot of rocks and thorns and debris on it. And he's thinking, if I become very rich, then I will use the money to pad the riverbed. So when I have to drag the boat, my feet will be walking on soft cushions. So Prabhupada in that section describing Dhruva Maharaj's lamentation, said, "Each and every one of us should be very, very careful to perform our devotional service with the right motive. Otherwise, we will have to lament like Dhruva Maharaj." Dhruva thought to himself, "To endeavor to be situated in the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord is not an ordinary task, because even the great brahmacharis headed by Sanandana of the four Kumaras, who practiced Astanga Yoga in trance, attained the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet only after many, many births. Within 6 months, I achieved the same result. Yet due to my thinking differently from the Lord, I fell down from my position." "Alas, just look at me. I am so unfortunate. I approached the lotus feet of the Lord, who can immediately cut the chain of the repetition of birth and death, but still out of my foolishness, I prayed for things which are perishable." Although he got the result of the Vishnu mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, he was given that by Narada Muni as his mantra, he lamented how foolish he was to have strived for material benefits while practicing devotional service. And as we just said, in other words, every one of us who is engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness should be completely free from all material aspirations. Otherwise, we will have to lament like Dhruva Maharaj. It is very difficult to satisfy the Lord, but in my case, although I have satisfied the super soul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who is already dead. Just see how fortunate I am, unfortunate, for in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions again. Persons, this is Maitreya speaking to Vidura, persons like you who are pure devotees of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who can offer liberation and who are always attached to the honey of his lotus feet, are always satisfied in serving the lotus feet of the Lord. In any condition of life, such persons remain satisfied, and thus they never ask the Lord for material prosperity. There's the example of Maharaj Chitraketu. He was cursed by Mother Parvati to become the demon Brittasura. So his amazing example, similar is also Indradyumna Maharaj, who was cursed to become Gajendra the elephant, show that a devotee is protected by the Lord and fortunate in any condition of life. And in the, especially in the case of Maharaj Chitraketu, cursed to become not just a demon, the demon Brittasura, but he was supposed to become, of course the mantra was chanted wrong, he was supposed to become the enemy of Indra, the chief of all demigods of the heavenly planets. So the mantra was chanted that Brittasura, the demon of whom Indra is the enemy. In other words, he'd be having the upper hand. So the Leela was that this Brittasura was to give trouble and terrorize, attack Indra and the demigods, and there would be a big fight. And because he's such a terrible demon, so many things had to be done. They had to acquire a thunderbolt weapon, Indra had to, wasn't an ordinary task. So, but at the same time, he had a very great devotional attitude because he was the disciple of Narada Muni and Maharaj Angira, and by following their instructions, he met the Supreme Lord Anantadev face to face and offered very beautiful prayers and pure devotional service. So the Lord wanted him to come back to Godhead very, very soon. So this incident was engineered that he would be cursed. We won't get into the whole story now, it's too lengthy to describe. But he showed that even in the role of being a great demon, that his devotional mentality was on the most exalted platform. So much so that it completely amazed Indra. It's just like if you're fighting somebody, say imagine somebody attacks you or the Harinam or book distribution, and then, you do it, and all of a sudden they say, yes, please call the police, and I want to be under arrest, and yes, you should stab me or shoot me because I will go back home, back to Godhead, and serve the Lord in loving devotional service. If like some crazy New York wild person started saying, well, wouldn't you be like, oh my God, where did this come from, So they're in the fight, and Vritasura is chastising Indra, just like now we were about to hear of the battle between Hiranyaksha and Lord Varaha. And Hiranyaksha, he's like chastising and insulting Lord Varaha with very cruel and heinous words. And it's described even that Lord Varaha was seemingly pained in the heart by these abusive words. So demons are expert in mental abuse, vocal abuse, and physical abuse. So here we'll start a little bit. This is Vritasura addressing Indra. You are bereft of all shame, mercy, glory, and good fortune. Deprived of these good qualities by the reactions of your fruitive activities, you are to be condemned even by the man-eaters. Now I shall pierce your body with my trident, and after you die with great pain, even fire will not touch you, only the vultures will eat your body. You're doing a good job of being a demon, right? You are naturally cruel. If the other demigods, unaware of my prowess, follow you by attacking me with raised weapons, I shall sever their heads with this sharp trident. With those heads I shall perform a sacrifice to Bhairava and other leaders of the ghosts, along with their hordes. And now the gears switch. But if in this battle you cut off my head with your thunderbolt and kill my soldiers, O Indra, O great hero, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to other living entities such as jackals and vultures. I thus shall be relieved of my obligations to the reactions of my karma, and my fortune will be to receive the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees like Narada Muni. Where does this come from? O king of the demigods, since I, your enemy, am standing before you, why don't you hurl your thunderbolt at me? Although your attack upon me with your club was certainly useless, like a request of money from a miser. You give a donate, don't got no money. Oh, you can Venmo, and no. Useless, request of money from a miser. The thunderbolt you carry will not be useless. You need have no doubts about this. So Vritasura knew he was destined to die by the thunderbolt of Indra, so he's encouraging Indra, who he's supposed to be the enemy of, but Indra is his enemy. Please use it and kill me. The thunderbolt you carry to kill me is empowered by the prowess of Lord Vishnu and the strength of Dadichi's austerities. Since you have come here to kill me, in accordance with Lord Vishnu's order, there is no doubt that I shall be killed by the release of your thunderbolt. Lord Vishnu has sided with you. Therefore, your victory, opulence, and all good qualities are assured. So, seemingly, Lord Vishnu is siding with Indra, but actually, Lord Vishnu is siding with Pritasura, Maharaj Chichiketu. And we see that even that after the killing of Indra, of Pritasura, Indra had to suffer sinful reaction, because actually Pritasura was not a demon, but a great Brahmana. By the force of your thunderbolt, I shall be freed of material bondage, and I shall give up this body and this world to material desires. Fixing my mind upon the lotus feet of Lord Sankarshan, I shall attain the destination of such great sages as Narada Muni, just as Lord Sankarshan has said. Persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Lord and always think of his lotus feet are accepted and recognized by the Lord as his own personal assistants or servants. The Lord never bestows upon such servants the brilliant opulences of the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems of this material world. When one possesses material opulences in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increases enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. Our Lord forbids his devotees to endeavor uselessly for religion, economic development, and sense gratification. O Indra, one can thus infer how kind the Lord is. Such mercy is obtainable only by unalloyed devotees, not by persons who aspire for material gains. And Britasura concludes with these very beautiful and heartfelt prayers. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. O my Lord, source of all opportunities, I do not desire to enjoy in Dhruvaloka, the heavenly planets, or the planet where Lord Brahma resides, nor do I want to be the supreme ruler of all the earthly planets or the lower planetary systems. I do not desire to be master of the powers of mystic yoga, nor do I want liberation if I have to give up your lotus feet. O lotus-eyed Lord, as baby birds that have not yet developed their wings always look for their mother to return and feed them, as small calves tied with ropes await anxiously the time of milking, when they will be allowed to drink the milk of their mothers, or as a morose wife whose husband is away from home always longs for him to return and satisfy her in all respects, I always yearn for the opportunity to render direct service unto you. O my Lord, my Master, I am wandering throughout this material world as a result of my fruitive activities. Therefore, I simply seek friendship and the association of your pious and enlightened devotees. My attachment to my body, wife, children, and home is continuing by the spell of your external energy, but I wish to be attached to them no longer. Let my mind, my consciousness, and everything I have be attached only to you. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart, and he knows the devotee's motive and arranges everything achievable. In the pastime of the demons and the demigods churn the milk ocean to get the nectar of immortality, when the Lord incarnated and appeared as Mohini Murti, he could understand the motivation of Rahu. who disguised himself as a demigod sitting in a line where they would be served the nectar first, and the Lord severed his head with her chakra. So the Lord knows everyone's motive. So we should strive with great sincerity, and Prabhupada uses that term, if one is sincere, to not be a pseudo-devotee and be happy simply by the prasad, the mercy awarded to us by the Lord and his pure devotees. So this Krishna consciousness movement is a movement of pure devotional service, prema dharma. Prema dharma includes all other types of dharmas. And by the mercy of the Lord, especially in this incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose inner purpose is to bestow upon this world the highest facility of love of Godhead, Braja Prema Bhakti. Within that is great kindness and ultimate dispensation, especially in this fallen age of Kali, to give everyone the facility to cleanse all the unwanted things from the heart, all the while engaging in the functional practice of pure devotional service, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, which, as Narottam Das Thakur explains, is ultimately the same as fully aroused and mature Prema Bhakti, giving the example of a mango ripening from the unripe stage to the ripened stage. So in other words, the devotee of Lord Chaitanya in his movement, in Srila Prabhupada's movement, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, he is performing with this body and mind the same activities throughout his or her entire life, but realization comes more and more as the Lord becomes pleased with the devotee's sincere attempt by offering their life in the service of the Lord. So the same activities that the neophyte does, the advanced or senior devotee does, but with so much more realization and understanding and actual connection to the Lord and his eternal associates and Param Dham, supreme abode. There's a nice statement by Srila Prabhupada in the 8th canto that it's not that just that the Lord is pleased with the senior or the most advanced devotees. He's pleased even with a new devotee or neophyte devotee, and will give that devotee all instruction, as it's described here, to come to the Lord himself in the perfectional stage. It is confirmed herein, in Bhagavad Gita 10:10, that a pure devotee who constantly engages in the loving service of the Lord is awarded all knowledge to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can think of achieving a very, very high goal. We want to become, graduate high school, and we go to college, and then we get an associate degree and a master's degree. What comes after that? Graduate degree, and then a PhD, and you have to, or if you're medical school, like 12 years on top of everything else, and like climbing. It's so difficult. And then there's competition. Like, say you want to get into MIT, and everyone who applies to get in there, only 7% are accepted. Extremely competitive, So what to speak of the topmost goal? We hear the coverings on the universe, each one 10 times thicker. And Prabhupada laughed at the attempt that we're going to land a man on on the moon or Mars, or we're going to explore other planets without the requisite qualification. Easy journey to other planets. The Bhakti Yoga, yogi, shaved head and Sika and Dhoti is like entering into Goloka Vrindavan and touching the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna and leaving the Apollo space launch in the dust. So it's a very great achievement to go back home, back to Godhead. Yogis and tapasvis performing. When Haridas Thakur was saying that simply by chanting the holy name, when liberation is an insignificant byproduct. Who was the offender? Gopal Chapala. What is this? Great yogis and tapasvis, for many, many thousands of years and lifetimes they aspire for liberation, but this sentimental devotee is saying by performing this devotional service of simply chanting Hare Krishna, one gets this as an insignificant byproduct. That is because the Lord is directly involved. Krishna is not known as Yogi Vatsala, Tapasvi Vatsala, what to speak of Karmi Vatsala. He's known as Bhakta Vatsala. Are you hearing that in the kitchen, Bhakta Vatsala? Hare Krishna. One merely has to become sincere in his purpose, and then the Lord is there to help in every way. So the Lord wants us to go back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada says in one place, the Lord wants us to go back home, back to Godhead more than we want to go back home, back to Godhead. And ultimately, the Lord's purpose, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kaviraj Goswami in the Antya Lila, Pradyumna Mishra instructed by Ramananda Roy, says the purpose of Lord Chaitanya's movement, the Krishna consciousness movement, is to benedict the world with mercy. So if we become a servant of Lord Chaitanya's distribution and dispensation of supreme mercy, then this is the most pleasing kind of devotional service. And just like in ordinary materialistic calculation, everyone's plotting and scheming how they can get the most for the least, how I can accumulate, how I can get more. So that same greed, Narottam Das Thakur says, greedy, specifically to hear the topics of pure devotional service in the company of loving devotees, which as we're hearing is the means and ends in and of itself. So when we hear how the Lord is pleased, we should become, we should know that if we are attracted and that sparks within us, then let me do that, then we can understand that that's our real self and that's our real pure mind, pure ego. Not that ego is wrong, false ego, but the ego that I want to please Krishna and I am Krishna's servant. Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. Oh my Lord, somehow or other I've fallen into this ocean of material birth and death. Please pick me up and place me as one of the atoms, and that simultaneously means atoms, one of the unlimited number of pure devotees who are situated at your lotus feet. All right, thank you. Hare Krishna. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord Himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. Hare Krishna. Any question or comment?
I was thinking, Prabhu, you're mentioning all these different wonderful prayers with the Surah, Dhruva Maharaj. And from one aspect, I hear them, but in another aspect, I can't really relate to it. I feel like I'm still very far away from actually having that sincere desire.
Are
Actually,
you? Do you really feel like that?
actually, actually, on the opposite end, I'm still feeling so attracted towards material sense gratification. So, how do I understand this? How can we actually get to that sincere desire to want to pray in this way that these Mahajans pray?
You must hear it
Great
again
souls.
hear again and again. Something that's pure cancels out that which is impure. Is the example of putting the white milk in the glass of black ink. By density, the milk is thicker and greater, and the ink will come out, and you'll be just left with pure white milk. We have to hear and we have to serve. By rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome and unwanted is removed, and loving service is established as an irrevocable fact. So hearing without service doesn't yield very much. Of course, for the new person, the person's outside, for them to hear the holy name oh so briefly, or to receive a book, and how much they read it, how much they understand it. There's stories of devotees who joined and they were hearing Prabhupada or trying to read the books and they couldn't understand anything, but they stayed in association of devotees and did what the devotees did, and they became purified. And we were saying, I think last week, the dean or lead professor at the prestigious university in Calcutta, he approached, or some prestigious university, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, wanted to ask him intricate questions about something in Vedanta. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, yes, but first, would you be willing to go help my disciples polish the brass in the Pujari room? And he was a pious man. He agreed. He wasn't puffed up. And doing that for a considerable period of time. And then, yes, now you can come. My questions were answered while I was while I was polishing the brass. So also that the struggle to maintain the devotional standard, of which the four regulative principles is the demarcation line between spiritual life and material life. As we were saying, Ravindra Prabhu had the realization that these are the four principles of acquiring transcendental knowledge, that if you follow the regulative principles, then you will get spiritual knowledge. And if you don't, then you won't get spiritual knowledge. So the struggle to maintain that, even, where that's taken as sincere devotional service by the Lord for the so-called neophyte. When parenting, they ask a question. So if you're a toddler, he's learning to walk, and he falls down, what do? And the supposed right answer is you let him get up. You don't come and light dot on him and pick him up. And maybe in the very beginning, when it's very first step, but they have to fall down, they have to get up, learn how to walk, get the strength in their legs, and like that. But again, it's sincerity, when does it, mistakes are the pillar of success, but if we're like, okay, the Lord is so kind, the devotees are so kind, and I continue to not perform on the proper standard, that's ultimately our sincerity is not correct. The Lord never gives a devotee a test that he cannot pass, ultimately. You've heard that? One who is favored by the Lord finds his path beset with thorns. And keeping in mind that pleasing the Lord and Vaishnava Kriya Mudra, it's very difficult to understand the activities of a Vaishnava. How is a person pleasing the Lord? Some things to think about. All right, we've gone over time. Thank you very much. Shri Shivada Govinda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.